Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nice to meet you again in my video presentation. At the moment, I would like to explain about pricing with market power. Remember the definition of market power? It is the ability of a firm to set its price higher than its marginal cost. Market power does not only belong to a monopolist, but also to other firms as well, who have the same ability despite with smaller magnitude. With market power, a firm can set a single price like normally in many cases or like in multi-plan firm case. But in other situation, the pricing strategy is to charge different customer different price. This is the kind of pricing strategy that will be explained in my presentation. The strategy is called price discrimination. Here are types of price discrimination that we will cover. There are the so-called first, second, and third degree price discrimination that will be explained immediately. There is also peak load pricing, which many people think as one of the examples of the second degree price discrimination. And the last one is intertemporal price discrimination, which looks similar to the third degree price discrimination. Earlier, I already mentioned that all the price discrimination might occur because of the existence of market power. But market power alone is not enough. Firm must also be able to separate customers and make sure that demand elasticities of the different classes of customers are different. Now let's talk about the first case, the first degree price discrimination. Let's check this familiar diagram of a monopoly case. Without price discrimination as usual, the intersection between MR and MC curves is the starting point. So Q start will be produced and sold at single price PM. We don't draw the average cost curve at the moment, but we know that this area is the variable or the total marginal profit of the firm. On the other hand, these two triangle areas represent consumer surplus and deadweight loss respectively. Do you remember? The two areas yet could not be captured by the firm. With first degree price discrimination, however, the situation is different. Instead of charging a single price at PM, firms set different prices for each of its customers based on their reservation price or maximum willingness to pay. It implies that the firm's additional revenue or MR now will be the same with price level, or the demand curve is also the marginal revenue curve. With MR equals P, then firm's production will be at this intersection point, producing Q double prime. But this competitive price is not the only price, because firm also charges all prices above the competitive price up until Pmax here. Therefore, with this perfect price discrimination, the firm's variable profit is this, but now is also added with this area, and the firm captures all the consumer surplus as well as the initially considered the deadweight loss. So economically, it is efficient, but with no consumer surplus enjoyed by the consumer. So it's a bit unfair. Now, I have to tell you this as well. In order to implement the first degree price discrimination, firm must have a perfect knowledge of each of its customers' reservation price. Moreover, arbitrage cannot be allowed to happen. Firm must make sure that no consumer of its product can sell the product to other consumers who have higher reservation price or willingness to pay. And lastly, it requires a strong monopoly power that prevents consumers to switch their buying to the competitor's product. Well, at least the first two conditions are hard to satisfy in reality, although not completely impossible. One firm may have limited but loyal number of consumers, so it can separate and charge different price to each consumer. In two-part tariff case, as you may learn on your own, firm may also still try to capture all the consumer surplus. Learning this practice, at least we learn that the basic idea of a firm doing the price discrimination is this: to capture consumer surplus as much as possible. How about the second degree price discrimination? Its main feature compared to the other is that the pricing here depends on how many goods the consumers buy. Unlike in the first degree, firm does not know exactly the demand and willingness to pay of each of its consumers. It only knows that there are different demands, but it does not know who has demand A, who has demand B. Consumer A can pretend to be consumer B and vice versa. Therefore, producers offer price quantity packages that provide incentives to consumers to self-select or reveal to the firm their willingness to pay indirectly. Here is the illustration diagrammatically. Without discrimination, single price PO is charged from the intersection of MR and MC curves. It results in this initial profit area, the difference between price and average cost, and the consumer surplus, this triangle area. With price discrimination by block quantities, we now have three different blocks of quantities, for example, with three different prices like this. The maximum number of product the firm can produce is at Q3 when price equals average cost, giving the firms a zero profit in normal condition. But that's not the case anymore. The profit the firm can earn is not zero profit, and it is even bigger than its monopoly profit as shown here. It's not only good for the firm, because as we can observe, consumers also get bigger consumer surplus and no deadweight loss at all, meaning that the practice is economically efficient. What are the examples of the second degree price discrimination? Well, quite a lot. And in many cases, the discrimination is not only applied to the quantity purchased, but also to some extent to the quality too. This example may be quite familiar to you, the internet package, or this discount for buying extra. And also in electricity case, some countries charge price lower for bigger electricity consumption. But in other countries like in Indonesia, to preserve the energy, it is the opposite. In the third degree case, firms know the different demands for their products through consumer attributes such as age, gender, location, and economic status. For example, there are special price of office application for students, special service price for online drivers, or different fuel prices in Java and in Eastern Indonesia. Let's see now how the prices are set differently by a firm given the firm's marginal cost here. Suppose that the firm is facing two different demand curves from two groups of consumers. So here is the first demand curve and its marginal revenue, and here is the second one. Profit maximization with two choice variables here, namely Q1 and Q2, mathematically will require MR1 equals MR2 equals MC. But be careful when you draw it in a diagram. It is not always the intersection between marginal cost curve and MR1 and MR2 curves. In our case here, the intersection that we're looking for is between the MC curve and the total marginal revenue curve here. MRT is the horizontal summation of MR1 and MR2, or it is derived from the horizontal summation of demand 1 and demand 2. The horizontal summation shows the summation of Q1 and Q2, which results in the total demand or QT. With MRT, now we have the correct intersection resulting in total output produced at QT. So at this point, MR1, MR2, and MC are all equal in values. Eventually, now we can decide how many output the firm should sell to group of consumers 1 and at what price level. And we can do the same to find both output and price level for group 2. From the diagram, we can also see that the firm sets higher price for the group of consumer that has less elastic demand curve. Remember this pricing formula? So for group 1, price will be like this, and for group 2, it will be like this. When demand of group 1 is less elastic than demand of group 2, it means that the elasticity value is lower in absolute value. But since demand elasticity is always negative, without the absolute value, the less elastic demand will have higher elasticity value. Finding the ratio of P1 and P2 from the pricing formula, we get this. And with the information about elasticity, then the numerator's value will be higher than the denominators. Thus, the ratio is bigger than 1, or P1 is higher than P2. Now, let's try to do some calculation. Given these questions, how to answer it? First, we know that this is the profit maximization problem. You may find the solution like this using the formal way. Just write first the objective function. Revenue 1 and revenue 2 here are the revenues obtained from multiplying the two inverse demand functions here with their respective outputs Q1 and Q2. And this is the cost. Obviously, here we are dealing with optimization with two choice variables, namely Q1 and Q2. So the solution is just to find the first partial derivative of the objective functions, profit, with respect to Q1 and Q2, like this and this. And don't forget to equalize them to 0. Fortunately, the calculation is easy because cost is linear. We can find Q1 and Q2 easily, and accordingly by substitution, we can get both P1 and P2 and also profit level if you want. Using MR equals MC formula, we can also get the same results. With single cost function and with Q equals Q1 plus Q2, differentiating cost to Q, Q1, or Q2 will result in the same marginal cost. So MR1 equals MC is this, resulting in the same Q1 and P1. MR2 equals MC is this, also resulting in the same Q2 and P2. Okay, how if the law prohibits the price discrimination as asked in question number 2? Without price discrimination, then there will be only one P and no P1 and P2 anymore. But of course, P is not equal to P1 plus P2, but instead it is Q total that is equal to Q1 and Q2. So from the two inverse demand functions, now we get Q1 and Q2 respectively here. Then Q total is this. This is now the objective. And since cost is expressible as a function of Q and price can also be expressible in Q as well, we choose Q as the only choice variables. Therefore, our total demand function is inverse again to become like this. P is expressed as a function of Q. Our profit function is now like this. Only Q total as the only choice variable. Then we just have to find the first derivative of profit with respect to QT. Then equalize it to 0 to get this. The other cases of price discrimination are these two. In intertemporal price discrimination, producers sells goods at two different points in time. There are consumers, for instance, who prefer to buy products when the products are launched for the first time. And price is usually not an obstacle for them. It happens during the launch of movie premieres in theater, for example, or when the new version of certain cell phone is introduced for the first time. But on the other hand, there are also consumers who are willing to wait longer. The demand of these groups are usually more sensitive to price, thus will be charged a lower price. Intertemporal price discrimination at the first glance looks so similar to the third degree price discrimination. In fact, it is a little bit different. Unlike the third degree case, the quantity and the price of each group are set separately in the calculation. As if there is no demand 2, MR1 will be set to be equal to MC to find both Q1 and P1. In the case of peak load pricing, the main feature is the presence of higher demand coupled with higher MC during peak periods. As in intertemporal price case, quantity and price are also determined separately here. Both MR1 and MR2 are equalized to MC. However, unlike in the intertemporal case, the values of MR1 and MR2 must be different. And we will also have two different marginal cost values for each demand because marginal cost is not constant as it increases sharply during the peak period. Okay, so that's all about pricing with market power or price discrimination in particular. I may give further explanation after you do some calculation exercise. Thank you very much for the attention. See you again in different video and different topic of microeconomics. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.